Chapter 7. I get introduced to a girl that turns my world upside down. There was a girl named Alex who was a couple years younger than I. She was the daughter of immigrants with a stern father and lived just outside of town. Although we were just friends, to me, she seemed to have something the other girls didn't. She had a unique voice, she was beautiful, smart, down-to-earth, beautiful hair, and she had the look of an exotic European model. I guess that would make her a dream girl. Okay, well, I did have a crush on her. But besides that, she was also likable and very easy to get along with. She wasn't around all the time, but here and there. A lot of the time she would be palled up with Ben's younger sister Tammy, and other times she would show up with a couple of other friends. We loved having all those girls around. Not just because they were pretty, which they were, but at times Alex's little girl gang could be the most hilarious bunch. They would sometimes get on a laughing spree, making honking noises when they laughed, making each other laugh more, and it just wouldn't end. You couldn't help but to crack up, and hey, who doesn't like to laugh? Also, we punk kids didn't always have something going on. In fact, there was a lot of boredom at times. A lot of the time, no one had two nickels to rub together. It was kind of like peaks and valleys in the action. So when the girl gang came around, they were often a lift for spirits, and personally, I liked them all. At one point, Alex took a liking to Conrad, and she seemed to know I hated it. Somehow girls seemed to have special senses. Now, of course, I would never admit to something like that. I was way too uptight, and I never came clean about just how much I adored her. Not to mention, I had this weird thing in my head, like a strange philosophy, that if I ever made a steady girlfriend, she wouldn't be friends with my friends. I really felt that way. Now, if that's not uptight and insecure, I don't know what is. Thank God I grew out of that whole thing. In retrospect, we were friends, maybe not the closest of friends. Maybe in part that when it was curfew for Alex, she went home. So she wasn't around quite as much as the rest of us. She probably had some of the best parents out of the bunch of us. I think it was just a little while after my 17th birthday that I had left Hampton for good, and I kept in touch with her on a rare occasion by telephone. Which of course was a landline and what was called a toll call for all you young buggers out there. The phone company charged a lot of money for toll calls as it was out of your local calling district. Now, in keeping with being incredibly stupid and complete idiotic fashion, I rolled and mailed her a joint in the U.S. mail, in a plain white envelope. Just threw it in there with a folded piece of paper and mailed it off. I couldn't fathom trying to do something like that today. It's incredible. I thought nothing of it. I'm sure I was ignorant to the serious charges associated with doing something like that, but nonetheless, it was up there with the stupidest of the stupid things I've ever done as a kid. She actually got it in the mail. It made it past the U.S. Postal Service, and I guess past her parents. She told me later that she smoked it with Boober. I think that might have hurt my feelings, but I managed to forge ahead somehow. I was 17 years old and about to be engaged. Once I turned 18, I had gotten married and went to the Jersey Shore for our humble honeymoon. Wildwood, New Jersey, in fact. I can't recollect exactly how it happened, but who was there walking down the sidewalk? It was Alex. Wow. She, my wife, and I hung out for just a little bit, tipped a few drinks back, and she gracefully wished us well and got back to her parents, who she was vacationing with. Just the 1 in a million odds of timing, I guess. Looking back, I suppose it was incredibly insensitive of me to invite another girl along for a drink on our honeymoon, even if for a short while. But I guess I have to claim innocence, young and dumb, really meaning no harm. And I don't think I ever shared with my new wife that Alex was a secret crush of mine during the time I lived in Hampton. She didn't seem bothered by it, and then again, we were just kids. Alex was friends with us all. It was always nice having her around. But when we were kids, one thing Alex did do for me was introduce me to someone that would turn my world upside down. One afternoon, outside the Hampton Public School, Alex came walking up the sidewalk with a friend of hers I had not met before. As they came up the sidewalk, I instantly got a case of tunnel vision. My eyes locked on to both of the most beautiful girls walking towards me. What a pair they made. Alongside Alex was a tall brunette wearing all black and a set of handcuffs for her belt buckle. How incredibly 80s. Her hair looked as black as her clothes. She had eyes that felt like they were staring into my soul. Her name was Lisa. As Alex introduced me to her, I was nervous, and instead of trying to be cool in the moment, I was trying to just make it through making her acquaintance without being awkward. Alex. Hey, Fred, this is Lisa. Me. Hey, what's up? Not brilliant, but standard. Lisa. Nothing much. Well, I didn't give her much to work with. She looked gorgeous just standing there with her thumbs in her belt loops. I was pretty sure I didn't make such a hot impression. Shy and unconfident with girls, and now slammed with love at first sight. Not only that, but I had met her through Alex, who I had been crazy about, semi-secretly, but wasn't all that interested in me. I wonder what she told her about me. If I acted on my feelings, would I be shot down and be the joke the little girls laughed at? I hated all that sort of thing. I would bump into Lisa once or twice when she was with Alex and the girl gang. I had such an infatuation with her that I couldn't wait to see her again, but it was kind of in the hopes of the stars lining up, and God forbid, I had to make an effort to know her better. At that point, I still had practically no social skills whatsoever outside of my little circle. To start and hold up a conversation on my own with a girl, especially one I really liked, was seemingly impossible. Well, one day, I really didn't have to make an effort at all. There was a get-together at one of our favorite spots, the infamous Route 31 Bridge. It was the usual. We had gotten someone to get us beer, and there was plenty of it. All my friends were there, and Alex had brought a few of hers to the party too, one of them being Lisa. For some reason, I had arrived a little later than everyone else and joined the party already underway. I was more than happy to see Lisa was there. The only problem was that she and everyone else had a head start on me with the beer. This wasn't ideal because you wanted you and your friends to be at an even buzz, more or less. The gang was roaring and the fun was started, but Lisa was way drunk. Ordinarily, this could have been a good thing, but I was completely bummed out to look a few heads down along the train rail and see that she was vomiting from drinking too much beer. Ordinarily, this is lights out. When you're sick, the fun is over, and I'm speaking from plenty of experience. Once you'd become ill from booze, you'd have to hear how the rest of the party went without you. But to my surprise, Lisa was falling all over me, barely able to stand on her own 2 feet. Holy shit. Well, great. But she's too drunk. I suppose I would have been one of those party rape stories, and I was having none of that. What the hell was I supposed to do with a girl I wanted so badly, but was so tanked? Hell, maybe she didn't even want me. She's so wasted I could be anybody. Not that I would have had a problem with that. But then Alex grabbed me by the arm and told me, and I quote, "Jump her bones. Trust me, Fred. Jump her bones." I trusted Alex and I followed instructions. Beer, cigarette smoke and all. I kissed Lisa like I've never kissed a girl before. She was a super trooper and didn't let the overdrinking put her down. We stayed close to each other throughout the day and into the evening, and eventually the girls had to leave. We promised to see each other again, and we did. By this time I was the proud owner of a red, late 70s Datsun B210 hatchback. Just another rust bucket I own. Cruising as usual with no place to go, but now I had Lisa in the passenger seat with me. We would stop at the pizza place, go to my house, join up with the gang here and there. As far as I was concerned, she was my girl. For a very brief time, we were inseparable. Suddenly, I wasn't remotely interested in any other girls. Once, we were offered to stay at a guy's house overnight where the latest party had been. Or I should say, she was offered to stay overnight, and I was just an obstacle in the way of a few of the older guys there that night. No one would have offered me to stay the night if I didn't have a way home or couldn't drive. But we took him up on his offer and we took the couch. I clutched her tightly all night, not just because of the situation, but the couch itself was too skinny for both of us, and we had to squeeze tight together on it to fit. When we woke the next morning, the guy who put us up offered her some tea and whatever, but he didn't even look at me as if to say, "Are you still here?" I told Lisa to get herself together and let's go. I felt like a dweeb. Why the hell didn't I just take her home, a few blocks away? Well, I would guess it was because I was drunk. So we hopped in my car and went to my house. I snuck Lisa in and we laid on my bed and got some rest for a few hours. When we woke up, we were talking and it kind of occurred to me that Lisa could be considered a runaway. I started getting the feeling I should get her home. While she was staying in town for the summer, it was actually an aunt and uncle who she stayed with. Maybe they were looking for her. Maybe the police would be knocking at my door once they had talked to a few people. It wasn't just like I wanted to get rid of her. I genuinely liked her, and she was my first real love. She was great, and I absolutely adored her, but I got more than I bargained for. She told me she was in love with me too, that she didn't want to go. She didn't want to leave me now, not ever. I think I was more than okay with that, but I knew for now I had to get her home, but she wasn't too keen on letting me take her home. As happy as I was that she said she loved me, I knew there was trouble ahead, like actual real trouble. And besides, if Lisa and I were going to be a real item and play grown-up in the future, this whole situation wasn't going to help me make any kind of impression on her aunt, her uncle, or her parents, or anyone. In any case, I knew the best thing for us to do right now was for us to get up and get the hell out of my house, so we did. Time seemed to slip by like water under the bridge. Before we knew it, night had come again, and Lisa still wasn't home. We had driven the back roads, spent the whole day just as happy as we could be, and I don't know why I simply wasn't firm and took her home, and we could see each other tomorrow or soon, but I kept her. It probably had something to do with the drama and the romance of being on the lam. It was late again, and we went to my house and spent the night. I think we slept like we were in a coma the whole night through and woke up very late in the morning. Now another day had passed and Lisa was still unaccounted for. Now I think I was starting to panic. It would have been easy enough to have her at least call home from my house, right? Not really. We didn't have a phone. I finally came around to knocking on my neighbor's door. I humbly asked for a one-time favor, and I promised never to ask for anything again. This was definitely out of the ordinary. If my girlfriend could just make a really fast phone call from your house, and I would really appreciate it. I'm sure they saw the desperation on my face and were nice enough to help me. I rushed back into my house and told Lisa to come with me, that I really needed her to call home now. Just call so they know you're okay. She agreed, and I waited outside the neighbor's door. Apparently her aunt, who she had been staying with, had read her the riot act, and she was furious. Furious enough to tell Lisa she was going back home to Phillipsburg, and to call home for a ride. Finally, a phone call or two later, it was arranged for another uncle from Phillipsburg to come get her. We knew she had to. There was no other way we could have worked it out. I, for one, had no car insurance and would have been a terrible idea to leave town. I reassured her that I would come for her very soon, and that for now she just had to go home and it would make everything better. Her uncle was to arrive at the pizza place in town to get her that night. It was hard. I didn't want her to go, but I didn't know what else to do. She cried and I felt terrible. As we stood outside in the parking lot, Lisa in tears, her uncle pulled up. It was time for her to go. Her uncle didn't say anything at all, didn't even roll down his window. When she finally let go of me, she told me where her house was and made me promise that I would come for her. I promised I would. When I closed the door, seeing her face drenched with tears, I'll never forget how she looked at me through the window as the car pulled away. It tore me inside for the first time ever, and I never kept my promise. I was 17, she was 15. At that age, it's easy to just move on with yourself to whatever you were doing before and just be adrift. To forget what seems like trouble and fly on the easiest, most fun path at hand on a daily basis. Maybe I was afraid of all the trouble we caused. Maybe things really do happen for a reason. I don't know. I never saw Lisa again.